G'day everybody, welcome back to Dune Awakening. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome back to another build-heavy episode. In the previous episode, we reconstructed the top part of the base. It's looking pretty nice. I don't know what the assault ornithopter is doing there. I guess, yeah, this is a bug that happens when you load into the game. It sort of spreads its wings. Oh, there it goes. I do still see a little bit of clipping there, but you know what? I'm not really going to address any of that, to be honest. I think it's going to remain as is, and I think this is the final form of the upper section of this building, but we're here to obviously do that expansion. So I am about to get started. One thing that I struggle with every time I'm doing a build is, I guess, breaking down what I've already built, which I don't know, it just seems like a struggle for me because it's like I spent a lot of time building stuff, and now I'm gonna have to get rid of what I did. I mean, we did utilize it for a good period of time, so I suppose I shouldn't really be too sad about it. Before we dive in, just a couple of things to sort of talk about in terms of what I want to achieve. Obviously, there's going to be a hangar that is open on the side, so that we can get the carrier ornithopter in and out. And I would have to say there needs to be a segment of it for where we would place down the harvester. I want to be able to get the harvester in as we're sort of flying away, and to not have to sort of place the harvester down somewhere and then break it down and then stash it away, if that makes sense. So a couple of points there, a couple of things that we need to be able to achieve. So anyway, I am going to get started, and yeah, we're gonna have to transform this entire place. So I'll see you guys on the other side, obviously. Alright guys, welcome back after all of that building. Once again, I feel like a broken record because I mentioned this in the previous episode, but I hope you guys like building because I think the majority of this episode will be building, and in fact, I feel like perhaps maybe this is the most we've done building in any single episode. Perhaps, or perhaps maybe we may have gone a little bit overtime in some of the other episodes with some building. I've got a couple of lights going on in the new hangar. I'm hoping that this will be enough. I'm not entirely sure about whether or not I want to keep these lights and perhaps maybe have other types of lights, or perhaps maybe change the orientation of where those lights are situated. But as you guys know, we do have a bit of a limitation on how many lights you can actually put in the one base, so that's a bit disappointing to be honest, but hey, I guess we just have to work with what we've got. One thing that I'm not entirely sure of is what to do with this space here, so far there's really nothing in here, but perhaps maybe we could, create some little sort of library or something like that. It seems like a odd spot for a library, or we could do some extra storage here, but I don't know. I feel like getting stuff into storage from up there down here or vice versa is a bit time consuming. And another thing is, well, considering we're talking about storage, perhaps maybe it might not be a bad idea to have like a storage container set up somewhere in this general area. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because I feel like if we're gathering spice using the harvester, it would be a good idea to transfer that into some kind of storage container. So, I don't know, maybe a couple of like smaller storage containers just so that it doesn't take up too much space, because obviously, if we got ourselves like a really, really big container, just trying to have a look here at the size of the bigger ones. Yeah, these are the bigger ones that we have. I don't know if we will eventually get access to even bigger ones. I haven't seen them. Yeah, I'm not seeing any options to research any bigger containers at the moment. And I don't really know if it actually unlocks or not. But yeah. Ooh, carrier ornithopter thruster. Should we research that? It might not be a bad idea. Just get the scout ornithopter moving a lot faster with the sandcrawler or harvester in tow. Yeah, maybe. I do need some improved Holtzman actuators though. 17 of those. So I don't know if I'll have the ability to make those or not. We'll have to check. But yeah, this is the size, and if we go for some of the smaller storage containers, this is sort of the size that we're looking at. I don't know, we might be able to tuck one in there and then tuck another one in there so that we can sort of just throw spice in there. I don't know if that's feasible or not, but and another thing is perhaps maybe we might not even need to do that, because if I'm not mistaken, you might be able to draw directly from the sandcrawler into the spice refineries without even having to move them, which would be really, really nice if that was the case. So I'm probably going to need to test that. Speaking of testing, so with the build that I've just completed, I'm not 100% certain that that's the final form of it, because, well, I don't actually have the vehicles necessary to put into it. But I think we might have all of the components ready, so I've been, slaving away, getting all of the materials that we need, and I do have a lot of different components here, so I am hoping that we have everything. I'm just looking at the storage here, though. So we only have the 4 wings. I know that I did queue up a couple more wings, though, so perhaps maybe those wings may have been stored elsewhere. I might need to go and try and find those. But yeah, let's grab various pieces here. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to be able to fetch everything all at once, so we're going to need to, I guess, do this in matches, so to speak. So, good thing we've got the sugar wire claw. Try and get around a little bit faster. I mean, I could maybe just fly the scout ornithopter around if I really wanted to. But getting around this way doesn't seem too bad either. Alright, so yeah, the real test is going to be whether or not we can fit the carrier ornithopter. And if we can't, then obviously this build is going to need to change slightly to be able to accommodate stuff, so we're about to find out. Oh man, this thing is huge. Yeah, okay. Alright, alright. Haha, okay. Blocked by another object. Okay, alright guys, so we've definitely got a bit of a problem on our hands. Yeah. You know what? Now I'm wishing that I had constructed all of the components first before even starting. Hang on, let me. Yeah, can we actually fit this in? No. Yeah, it is sort of giving us an area there to try and work with, so that's looking impossible. Alright, this place is going to need to be even wider. It's going to be quite crazy, in fact, the amount of expanding that I'm going to need to do, come to think of it. So, anyway, let me drop off my ornithopter components because I don't really want to have to carry that with me. And you know what, I'm going to just use the big storage container that we have here just because this seems like a lot of volume. So yeah, there we go, and I'm pretty sure I have all of the wings. Now, one thing that I'm also not entirely sure of is how many wings we need to actually construct it. So I've made 6 wings in total, but as I said, I'm not entirely sure where some of those wings went. So I'm gonna need to find them. There we go. There are our additional wings. So let me grab these because I kind of want to put everything together. And what I might do is, while we're here, we'll also just take a look at the improved Holtzmann actuators. And I think we needed 17 of these, so we should be able to make all of them. I don't really have a lot of plasteel, but we do have enough. It does eat into our cobalt as well. But I suppose I don't really need more cobalt for anything else. I've already made the ornithopter components. Well, I mean, I take that back. We've got the sandcrawler to try and make as well. Now that I think about it, considering the size of the carrier ornithopter, do we also want to start thinking about the sandcrawler? Because I've carved out like a space that I think the sandcrawler will sit in. I actually don't know if it will fit. Maybe the best thing to do is to at least make the chassis, and that way we might be able to get to know whether or not it's going to fit. Yeah, that doesn't seem like a bad idea. Man, these things are gigantic. Well, not just gigantic, but taking up a lot of space. Alright, let me tuck the rest of our components into more storage here. And yeah, I'm afraid this episode's not really going to be that exciting, guys. So if you're out here sort of looking to watch, you know, mission progression or quest progression, I don't think it's happening this episode. But I'm sort of kicking myself with the size, though. I really wished that we could stick with this size. Although, you know what? Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Because I feel like perhaps maybe we can improve on the shape of the structure a little bit more. But I also feel like perhaps maybe we're going to need to get some more pillars that are going to run all the way down. And yeah, I'm not really looking forward to solving that problem, to be fair. But that's okay, we'll eventually get there. Man, I spent quite a long time on that build, only for us to need to redo it, or redo some elements of it. Okay, so let's grab everything else. And I'm just gonna do a quick test on the Sandcrawler chassis. Assuming the chassis is the largest part, I'm hoping that'll give us a decent indication on how much space we're going to need. Okay, so down here... Alright, please fit. Okay. No, it does not fit. We definitely need a little bit more space. So I'm thinking it's probably better to give it maybe 3 by... 3 by... I want to say 5, but I reckon maybe 6. 3 by 6. Because at the moment, I think this is 3... sorry, yeah, this is 2 by 3. And it's definitely not letting us fit it in. So yeah, let's expand this section as well. So what does that mean for the outer section here? I would say it means that perhaps maybe we're even going to need to get rid of like some of the stuff that we've got going on this side. And perhaps maybe we're going to need to start widening the expansion pretty close to the main building to accommodate both vehicles. So yeah, a bit more work to be done. Yeah, I think if there's anything that we can learn from this, or I can learn, is that I should have maybe just made the chassis of all of the vehicles that I wanted before I even started. And then, you know, tested things before even starting. Oh well, that's fine. That's fine. It's all a process, and as you guys know, I mean, my build style is sort of organic. I sort of see how things sort of eventually turn out. I don't exactly have too much of a plan, but we are paying for it, as you can see. Just moving these banners initially, because I think I definitely are going to need to do that. I don't want to lose those banners, because getting the agave seeds are a bit of a pain. And yeah, I mean, I sort of finessed a lot of stuff here, thinking that things are going to fit, but unfortunately they have not. So, what a shame. I do like the style though, so I'm gonna try and maintain the style of the sort of opening in the front, but perhaps maybe this gives me an opportunity to figure out whether or not there's a way to make things look a little bit nicer at the top end of the structure, because we've got all these embellishments down the bottom, but not so much on the top. So I hope we can actually do something a little bit better. Anyway, looks like my engine is on fire, and I guess that's the universe telling me perhaps maybe it's time to end the episode, and then when we come back in the next one, we'll continue our build further and hopefully resolve the size issue of this place and get those vehicles in. Thank you very much for watching, guys. As usual, drop me a like if you're enjoying things, subscribe if you haven't already done so, stay true, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.